Everyone is using Pinterest wrong, and it's costing them massive traffic and massive money every single month. In this video, I'm going to break down the most common Pinterest questions, but more importantly, I'm going to show you how to turn this platform into a money machine. Now, stick around to the end because FAQ 17 is by far the best. And importantly, you're going to know exactly what's working on Pinterest right now and what's quietly killing your growth. This video is going to be an important one. Let's get into it. Okay, so you join me inside of the Pinterest FAQs. This is the 2025 version and edition, and I'm going to just share with you in this video all of the things that I think you need to know if you are growing and scaling a Pinterest account. And if you are hitting kind of like these walls along the way, then you're probably making these mistakes. Watch this video all the way to the end because number 20 is going to be probably the one that you need the most. This video is going to be full of actionable advice and is the things that me and my team do every single day. So make sure you follow along. And of course, if you have any comments, then feel free to add those into the comment box. If you are new to making passive income online, then I'd recommend this video because, as I said, I'm going to go through all of the small things you're going to make in terms of your mistakes, get those out of the way so you can grow and do things correctly. If you already have a Pinterest account, then you're probably going to want to watch this video even more because you can ensure you have a smooth success path. And again, leverage my years and years of experience on Pinterest. Don't make any of the mistakes that I do and just break through in terms of passive income, get into your goals faster. So let's get into today's video. Quick pause. If you are enjoying the content and you really want to unlock the next level of success with Pinterest, then I urge you to sign up to my newsletter. I'm sharing the best tips, the most up-to-date tips, things that are working for me in 2025 in detail with step-by-steps of exactly how I am growing my Pinterest accounts across my several accounts, plus all my agency accounts. Plus, I have around 20 or so blueprints that give you the step-by-step methods of how I scale out accounts up to $10,000 with no jargon or fluff. This is exactly what I do and all the tools I use to scale up my Pinterest accounts. If you're interested, this is all 100% free, so please sign up with the link below this video. Let's carry on. So just quickly, what is Pinterest and how does it work? Of course, it's a visual discovery engine and people use it to find ideas and inspirations, okay? It has millions and millions and millions of people that are searching every single day on Pinterest. And our goal is to get a piece of that so we can drive them to our blog and then monetize that audience in the best and easiest way possible. Now, pins are just visual bookmarks that link back to websites, and I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like in a second. And users save these pins to their theme boards, okay? So think of it like a curated area for your audience and for you to have for all the things that you like and love and want to share online. Now, the cool thing is, it is great for long-term traffic because pins can resurface over lots of months and lots of years, which is kind of different to SEO traffic and why I prefer Pinterest traffic. And of course, one thing to note is that unlike social media, Pinterest does actually act like a search engine, which means you need to do some smart things to utilize the search engine element of Pinterest and get your pins to show up. So if you're completely new to Pinterest, this is an example of what the home feed looks like. So depending on what you put in terms of your search volume and your search keywords, you're going to get a wide variety of different pins and they're all going to be created to the information that you want. Your job is to make someone to click on your pin and then obviously going to go through it and potentially click the visit site button. When they do that, they hit your blog page, they're going to scroll through your blog and you're going to make money with them, usually through ads, sometimes through email marketing, sometimes through affiliate products. But the whole point is once they hit your blog page, you can kind of control that visitor and lead them down your funnel. So this question I get asked usually quite often, is Pinterest still worth it in 2025? 100% the answer is yes. And I think usually people don't see it as worth it because they don't see the potential in terms of traffic. But I have a ton of case studies, plus clients, plus my own personal accounts, and we are seeing ridiculous amounts of traffic, especially in Q4. So 100% it's still worth it in 2025. And of course, as I mentioned before, this is not like SEO, even though it has similar segments. But the cool thing is you still can get free organic traffic, okay? And that's why I love Pinterest because I don't really spend any money on the platform and I generate hundreds of thousands of clicks every single month to my blogs and to my company accounts. So Pinterest has recently shifted to inspired search and shopping, which means that the users on there generally are in more of a buying mindset, which means when they hit your blogs, it should be slightly easier for you to convert them. And definitely one of the most important questions I get asked is what are the strongest niches on Pinterest? And home decor, beauty, food, travel and fashion, and also parenting is the biggest ones. So if you have an account in one of those niches, then you're probably going to see a lot of traffic if you follow a consistent strategy. If you don't, and you're new, I'd recommend you probably create an account in one of these niches. Usually between these 4 or 5 niches, everyone's going to kind of be covered. Everyone eats food, everyone lives in a house. Of course, if you're a woman, even if you're a guy, whatever, you want to be beautiful, so you're going to be into that. You should have some instinct about fashion, even if you don't really spend too much money on it. In general, that can work. And of course, if you have children, you know how to parent, right? So those are the strongest niches on Pinterest. And as I mentioned before, Pinterest users have high intent, so they're planning and also buying. So if you can kind of utilize the niches and know your audience, you can build out a fantastic business that is scalable. Okay, how long does it take to see results from Pinterest? Now, usually, the benchmark for how long it takes to actually see traffic from the pins you create is around 6 to 12 weeks. Usually it's in the 6 week range, but it could take 3 months. Okay, that's the only small caveat that you need to understand. So you plan 6 to 8 weeks in advance. So for example, now we're in October, so I'm planning all my Christmas content. Okay, once you build and understand how it works, it's not really that much of a big deal because you just plan like, I don't know, 2 months ahead. So you do all of the things for now for 2 months ahead. And if you consistently do that, then you just have a fantastic strategy that will allow you to rake in traffic across any part of the year. As I mentioned, Pinterest is a slow burn, but it does reward consistency. And you should see some early signs when you start to pin. These are like things like saves and engagements, especially. And these help the algorithm to push your pins wider. And of course, this just means that your results are going to compound and old pins can go viral months and months later. This is a point that most people don't really understand about Pinterest. And it's that if you make a post and you make a pin that does well this time of year, next time of year, it's going to probably do exactly the same thing again because the pin doesn't go anywhere. It stays on the algorithm and then just it comes alive as the season comes around. Okay, bear that in mind. So though it can take a little bit longer to rank, once you've created it, it stays there almost forever unless you want to take it down, which I don't recommend you do if it's doing quite well. So this is why I love Pinterest. How often should I post on Pinterest? So usually I'd say around 5 to 15 fresh pins per day per account. If it's new, start on the lower side. If it's existing, start on the higher side. And usually I'd go for quantity over quality, and consistency does matter. Now, I would recommend that you mix a variety of new content and reshare your top performing URLs. So if you have things that have done well in the past and it's not seasonal, for example, it's kind of like an evergreen topic. So for example, something, if it's recipes, think about things like healthy meals for your children. That's going to kind of be all year round. You're going to have different varieties of healthy meals for your kids. So create new content on that and continue to reshare those URLs. And of course, create new pins for that particular post. And you can use tools like Tailwind, and you can use tools like Blog2Pin, which can help to automate your posting. I'll show you what they look like in a second, but essentially they're just automation tools that you can use to automate posting and just helps you be a bit more hands-off. Now, what are fresh pins and why do they matter? So a fresh pin is equal to a new image or video, even if the URL is the same. So when I say a fresh pin, I don't mean using the same post and pin and the same URL, because of course that's not going to be fresh, but you can use the same URL, and I definitely recommend that you do. Pinterest in general prioritizes new visuals over old ones because they want fresh content and they want the users to have not seen your pin before, or if they have seen it before, then engage in similar content, and that's going to mean that you're going to get a higher reach. And remember, in terms of fresh pins, don't overcomplicate things. So it can be simple tweaks to an existing image. You can change the title, you can change the text overlay, and that will count as fresh. The biggest mistake you can do is repinning the same pin multiple times to different boards. And when I say repinning, I mean just grabbing it from where it is and adding it to a new board, or even creating it again and adding it to the same board. Okay, don't do that. That's definitely a no-no because that is in no way fresh. And yeah, as I mentioned, don't overpin and don't use the same designs, okay? Test fresh designs because you're going to be able to see what works and what doesn't, and then you can double down. Now, what types of content perform best on Pinterest? Usually step-by-step visuals, checklists, tutorials, before and after product ideas, for example. But things like lifestyle and practical imagery usually do quite well. So not things that are super like overly polished in terms of stock photos. Portrait works quite well, so 1000 by 1500. And I would also recommend that you use keyword-rich text and descriptions overlays. So let's take a very quick example of what that looks like now. So we're back on the home feed. So I like to go on the home feed quite frequently because I get to see what my competition is pinning. So I love these kind of like high, fast, and in-your-face content in terms of the text here. I do like the nail text here. It's super visual and in your face. This one's around baby showering. This one sticks out for me quite heavy. It's a Christmas pin, and I do like the way that the text stands out. Also, the colors here stick out. So the most important thing is when you have a account and you're zoned into your niche, you're only going to see the pins for your particular niche. So for example, if we go into nails, for example, you're only going to see nail pins if you're in, for example, the nail space. and you'll be able to very easily see what your audience are currently pinning, and you can follow suit. So let me go a little bit deeper. So this is the trend tool. I'm going to click on full nails here, which is the highest trending search term right now on Pinterest, and I'm going to click on that particular keyword. Now these are all the full nail pins that are ranking on Pinterest for this term, and as you can see, they all look relatively similar. Okay, so we've got nails in the background, we've got the word fall on the title, and we've got some really rich imagery. This is the best way to find out what's working on Pinterest, and the best advice I can give you is just copy your competition and just make it slightly unique for yourself. Okay, this is really cool as well. Okay, how do you find keywords on Pinterest? So we'll pop back over to Pinterest in a second, and the easiest place to use is just go to Pinterest search and use the auto suggest bar, which I'll show you in a second. You can also check Pinterest Trends and Pinterest Clicks and Pin Clicks, which is a paid tool. Pin Trends is free. You can spy on your top performing pins in your niche using Pin Clicks as well. And of course, you want to include keywords in your title, your description, your file name, and your board title. Okay, that's an SEO tip. So let's very quickly take a look at what Pinterest Trends look like. So this is the Pinterest Trends tool. If you haven't seen it before, it's free to use. And once you set up a business account on Pinterest, which again is free, you'll be able to access this tool. I spend quite a lot of time here. And what I'll do is I go into my niche area, which will be on the left-hand side here in interests. Let's say that I'm going into food and drink, which is a really good niche to go into. Then it's going to give me all of the related volumes, keywords, and some of the insights into how those keywords have changed over the last month or year. And then I can also change the trend type here, okay? Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I could spend a ton of time here. But the point I'm trying to make is you can use the trend tool and find loads of keywords, juicy keywords with really, really good search volumes. If you install the Pin Clicks Chrome extension, you'll get this volume data here, but you do have to pay for that, so bear that in mind. But it's part of their subscription. But as I mentioned, if you pop into some of these keywords, you can get an idea of what they look like in terms of the search volumes. So you can see this particular keyword, which is strawberry shortcake, dips over the end of Q4 and then picks back up in around January and stays quite heavy over the summertime. And then this is what the actual home feed looks like for this keyword. As you can see, it's a shortcake recipe. So there's loads of like juicy recipes and pin descriptions and pictures of cakes. So super simple to figure out. And then of course, very interestingly, you do have these kind of auto suggest bubbles at the top where you can click on them and then it will slightly change the keyword so you can understand what's working and what's not working. Okay, so what are boards and how should I organize them? So boards are group related pins like home office ideas or easy weeknight dinners. And usually I'd create around 15 to 25 keyword focused boards per my account. And then every time I have a new batch of articles, maybe like 30 or 50 articles, I may change or add a few boards in because I want boards that are related to my new posts. You definitely want to optimize those board titles and descriptions with SEO keywords. And remember, do not mix random topics into one board because it can confuse Pinterest. And if the algorithm doesn't know what your boards are about because you put in random pins into it, then they're not going to push that board, all those pins on their algorithm, which means you're not going to get any traffic, okay? If you want to get more information on boards, because it is a little bit tricky to understand, and not in terms of how to create it, that's super easy, but in terms of why and what to create, then feel free to sign up to my newsletter right here. I go into detail for free into all of the ins and outs of Pinterest, and I give you all my strategies, all my notes, all of the things that I'm doing and important that you shouldn't do to grow your account. If that makes sense for you, it's 100% free. Feel free to add your name and email into the box below. It's in the description, the first link. Let's carry on. So number 9, how do I drive traffic from Pinterest to my website? So every pin that you're going to create are going to have a relevant link back to your blog post or potentially your product. And then you're going to use a call to action text overlay like read more or get the guide, for example, for people to click on the pin and go to your blog page. Now you can optimize your landing pages for mobile, which usually happens if you're just using your typical WordPress blog account anyhow. And Pinterest traffic is mostly mobile. So do bear that in mind because even though I'm using the computer now and I do all of my research on the computer, like 85% of your audience are going to be on their mobiles. So bear that in mind when you're creating any of your blog posts, that you have a blog post that is mobile friendly. Again, WordPress usually has that default, but anything you're using in terms of your website, in terms of your ad revenue, in terms of your ad network, etc., has to be mobile optimized because everyone's on their mobile right now. And that's where most of the Pinterest audience is. And of course, you do want to create multiple pin designs per URL to test what drives your clicks and what doesn't. Okay, now we're getting into some of the things that happen when you have an existing account, and that is why are my Pinterest views dropping. Now, a few things to note when it comes to Pinterest dropping your views, and that's that there are seasonal fluctuations, and that is super normal. So for So for example, right now we're going into Q4. There's like things around fall, around winter, around Christmas. If your pins are heavily based on those, then there's a high chance that you're not going to see much traffic after, because of course Jan, February, March is a totally different season. And also all the seasonal elements of Christmas, for example, are no longer going to be showing on Pinterest because no one's searching for it. So bear that in mind. Now Pinterest does usually and have done quite frequently, they've tested new algorithms or features across the entire platform, so you can see like these fluctuations in your account. Also, you do want to check if your content matches your current search trends. And remember, if you're doing it 6 to 8 weeks in advance, then you want to make sure that you correctly time your pins, because if you don't, then you will miss the kind of surge of traffic, and then you may be shooting yourself in the foot because you haven't really strategized correctly, and your pins have taken too long to rank and no one's going to be searching for those terms. Okay, so what's the difference between idea pins and regular pins? Idea pins are like mini stories, so there's no outbound clicks. They're really good for brand awareness and engagement, but your standard pins, which I usually tend to use a bit more, are static or videos, and they just tend to drive more clicks to your website. Now you can use both, but I tend to use more standard pins because I'm trying to drive traffic to my blog. But on occasion, you may need to use idea pins, for example, if you're just trying to create like a brand awareness campaign or something of that nature. So number 12 is, how do I measure success on Pinterest? Okay, super important. Impressions, saves, and engagements are the good metrics to use. And of course, for us, it's outbound clicks. But you're going to find that in terms of Pinterest, they don't really care for outbound clicks as much, because they kind of show engagements and saves as the main metrics that they want people to follow. And sometimes by default, they'll flick your analytics to show engagements or saves as opposed to clicks. So bear that in mind. You can obviously, of course, track your conversions with Google Analytics. We want to focus on outbound clicks as opposed to things like impressions, because you can have super high impressions on some accounts, for example, fashion, but also super low clicks on the same accounts because people are just viewing your pin and they are not actually clicking on your pin. So it's super important that you have a distinction between the two. And then, of course, probably best to double down on your month-to-month trends as opposed to day-to-day trends, because you can have spikes where there's different algorithm updates and your pins may do slightly better on those. But in general, look at your monthly analytics. So this is an example of a account that I have in the fashion space. This is around 80,000 outbound clicks. There's around 5 million impressions on this account. There's engagements up to around nearly 2,500. Nearly to 300,000, and there's a few other metrics there. But the point I'm trying to make is, as you can see, there are spikes on the weekend for this particular account. I tend not to really focus on the spikes, but in general, I want to look at the overall traffic on this account, and then I can make a distinction between what's working and what's not. Now, can Pinterest work for service-based or B2B brands? The answer is yes, but you do need to tweak the way that you use the content and also your service to make it searchable content. So for example, things like Pinterest strategy tips or branding ideas or marketing checklists, etc., they can work. I have a client that does that. I do that for right now, actually. And also you need to use educational content to lead users into your funnel. And as I mentioned, there is a ridiculous amount of people on Pinterest every single day, millions and millions of views. So there are ways that you can turn that audience to your brand or your service. You just need to be very, very smart about it. And if you are interested in that, then again, add to your name to the email list below for free, and I'll send you some more information on that. So what are the common mistakes to avoid on Pinterest? First off is it's not like Instagram, so definitely don't treat it like that because you're not going to get much traction. People usually ignore keywords and SEO to their peril. Don't do that either because Pinterest gives you all the metrics that you need. So just use the metrics that they've given you and utilize some AI tools, and you can very easily harness the SEO aspects of Pinterest. So very often people will come to me and I'll audit their account for them, and I'll realize very easily that they are overusing one design or URL because they have one or two top posts and that's all that's doing well on their account. Plus all the new content is pretty much the same URL or design, just repeated. Okay, so that's definitely a no-no. And that they kind of wonder why things aren't growing. That's usually the reason. One of the other reasons that people are not seeing much traction is because they're not posting consistently. As I mentioned before, between 5 to 15 is the kind of default standard for most accounts, sometimes a bit more. But if you're doing like 1 or 2 a day or 3 a day or whatever, and then not doing anything for 2 or 3 days, and then doing 5 or 6 and then nothing for a few days, you're not going to see traction. And the algorithm is not going to reward you for your efforts. Okay, so it has to be consistent. And then also, which is kind of super surprising to me, people don't really analyze what's already working because they just seem to be like doing more content, no more pins. But when I have checked their accounts to see what's working, it's definitely a surprise why they haven't checked their top 3 or 4 pins and then done more of those pins different designs, different colors, but using similar URLs and just doubling down on what works, okay? Very, very easy way to structure your account and double your traffic and your impressions over a very short time is to double down what's working. Now, this question I get asked quite a lot, and it's super important. So how do I monetize traffic with Pinterest? And the easiest way is to use display ads. I use Mediavine, I use Ezoic, I use a new company called Momentric, which are okay, but I prefer Mediavine and I also prefer Ezoic. Also, Mediavine has a sister company called Grow, which is just fantastic. And if you have potentially the amount of traffic that you need, you can use Raptive, but I just prefer Mediavine because they are probably just as good. So these are the display adverts that I would recommend that you join. In terms of affiliate links, Amazon just does well across the board. You can also have digital products. This works for one of my niches, but only because it's in a specific niche. So digital products will work quite well. So courses and templates and ebooks. And then this is just something that I've just started to explore is sponsored pins and partnerships. So people will pay me to like display and create a pin campaign or maybe potentially a few campaigns for their particular brand, if it makes sense. So think about things like in terms of fashion, if I am doing nails, for example, and there's a brand that is doing some type of nail campaign and they're looking to kind of spend some money to get some brand awareness, then they've paid me to create some pins, show their brand, and then it goes back to their particular brand page, which everyone is a winner. So those things do work quite well. And then of course, email lists do very, very well too. It is niche specific, but I always think that it makes sense to grow a list because you can monetize your list in a variety of different ways. Now, what tools make Pinterest easier to manage? I've mentioned Blog2Pin in the past. It's a super easy tool to use. It is harnessed with AI and it also allows you to just plug in your account and it creates all of your pins for you. It can give you a calendar schedule over the next 30 days. It creates SEO optimized boards for you using AI. And you can also import some Canva templates too, okay? And it pretty much has everything on the platform itself, okay? Super, super simple to use. You can, as it says here, start pinning for free. And in general, it's like super affordable too. So feel free to use the link below this video if you want to use Blog2Pin. Also, I mentioned Content Goblin many times. Content Goblin is where I spend most of my time. This is an AI content generator for Pinterest, and it does a lot more as well. It does pin generations, and it has pretty much everything you need in terms of creating your blog posts and having those to be a good template for you to use that you can, of course, go ahead and change, modify, add new images in, add some new text in. But in general, it's fantastic for Pinterest, and I'd recommend it. Again, link below this video. Feel free to check it out. And of course, things like Canva do work quite well. I use Canva from time to time if I want to change up my design templates because I'm trying to test things. And you can also use Pinterest Trends. As I mentioned, you've seen that before. And lastly, Pinclicks. So Pinclicks for me is the only research tool that I use outside of the free one with Pinterest. So this is a paid one. It is fantastic in terms of your own personal account because you can save your keywords. You can also see your competition and see what's doing well for them. But most importantly, gosh, I use it for keyword research. So I can just go through like hundreds and thousands of keywords, see which ones are got the best volume, see which ones are potentially going to scale over the next few months, and then just have a fantastic strategy to take advantage of those keywords, bring those eyeballs to my website and make money, okay, make passive income. And this is what I do for all my client sites as well. So use Pinclicks if you have it's not too expensive. It's definitely worth it as well. If you've got a small budget, use the link below this video. There's a free trial, so you've got nothing to lose really. I'd recommend Pinclicks 100%. So how can I use AI with Pinterest marketing? So right now I'm using ChatGPT to write most of my pin titles, descriptions, and board ideas. You've got AI tools in Content Goblin that does things like generate your pin designs and captions automatically, and of course your images in general. You can combine AI with analytics to identify new niches and seasonal content gaps. And then also, it's just in general, AI has kind of taken over the whole industry. So there are tools that you can use just for AI. So for example, Blog2Pin uses AI to create like multiple pins per day across the entire month. So this is going to be something that's going to be happening quite well, but of course, take it with a grain of salt because not all AI is going to be the best. So use AI tools carefully and also definitely have a human check any of the things that you're doing just in case there's any issues. So how do I grow faster on Pinterest? Now, this is probably, again, one of the most common questions I get asked. And what I'd recommend you do is you post post consistently. As I mentioned before, 5 to 15, do that over 2 to 3 months. And I can't guarantee results, but as close as guaranteeing results as possible because you're just giving Pinterest what they want. This is super interesting, okay? You want to focus on seasonal and evergreen content together, okay? Not just one or the other, both, because if you do that, you get these massive influxes of seasonal content, and then you get this overall leveled content, evergreen content, traffic, and then you get these huge peaks and then level huge peaks. But in general, you have a account that is utilizing both, and it means you just get more traffic. You definitely want to optimize your pins and your boards for search intent. This can be very easily done with AI tools right now. So for example, ChatGPT. So just copy everything that you have, put it into ChatGPT and say, how do I optimize my pins? How do I optimize my boards, for example? And it will do everything for you basically for free. As I mentioned before, double down. So analyze your top performing pins monthly and do more of those. And then using a mix of automation and a manual strategy. Now, for example, I'm glad you got to the end of this video because this is just for you. So I don't actually use many schedulers for Pinterest now. So things like Tailwind. I actually use a manual strategy where I post on Pinterest itself because for me, it just makes more sense to post natively on the platform. I haven't got any case studies or results to show this, but it just seems like the accounts that I've done that for seem to grow faster and more naturally than as opposed to the ones that are scheduling via an API. But again, you can test out what works for you. But manual strategy in terms of pinning seems to work quite well if you're using Pinterest and you're using the native platform. So what's the biggest Pinterest secret most people miss? And that's that Pinterest rewards relevancy over virality. So for example, the more relevant your pins are and the smartest way that you place them, then in terms of your growth, you're going to see way more growth as opposed to just being like viral, which can just happen every now and again. And as I mentioned, pinning the right content at the right time is absolutely everything, okay? If you get this right, you'll see traffic and growth in your business. If you get it wrong, you basically won't. So it's definitely about aligning your user intent and not chasing trends. And as I mentioned, consistency plus SEO is the luck. You kind of make it yourself. So the final tip for new Pinterest creators are treat Pinterest like a search engine, create content that solves people's problems and inspires their actions, and just be patient, okay? It will take a little bit of a while to stack up, but once you do, results will stack up and you'll see it's compounding growth. And this is what I tell my clients all the time. Month 1 and 2, and maybe even 3 will be generally quite slow, but 4, 5, and 6 will compound and they'll have so much growth, they'll be extremely surprised. Then it continues to compound, okay? So take it slow, but also be consistent and then watch out for that compounding effect. And lastly, once it does click, it does run like a machine. You've seen some of my accounts there. I make hundreds of thousands of clicks to my blogs and a really, really good income with Pinterest. So there's no difference between me and you. You can do exactly the same. So with that in mind, feel free to check the links in the description. If this has been a useful video for you and you got some value from it, I have a free Pinterest strategy, as I mentioned before, with my newsletter. It's 100% free to sign up. So feel free to check the link below this video and you'll get loads of strategies for free and you'll see what's working for me right now. Lastly, I have Pinterest tutorials. Again, super affordable for anyone that wants to just get more information and work at their own pace. I also do have Pinterest coaching. So if you want to take your strategies to the next level and have me kind of coach you one-on-one on your personal account and your personal niche area and all the keywords that you need and all the strategies that you need to grow your account exponentially, then feel free to sign up to that. Again, super affordable. I also have a management service. So this is for as an agent. So I will take your account and I will grow it for you with me and my team. So you don't have to give me all the details. I'll just pretty much just integrate with my company account and I'll go ahead and grow your account for you for a set price every single month and you'll see the growth and returns on your investment. If that makes sense to you, then feel free to check the Pinterest management link below this video. And lastly, I have a Pinterest done for you package. So if you're like, hey Mo, look, I understand what you're saying. I've got some cash and I want to kind of put some money aside to grow a Pinterest account, then I can do this entire thing for you from scratch. So that's creating a website for you, that's doing all the keyword research for you, that is doing all the strategy for you, creating all the pins for you, all the tools for you, pretty much the entire process as if I was creating it for myself. There's a package that I have that I can create everything for you. If that makes sense for you, again, there's a link below this video. It makes the most sense if you have the investment to invest and you want to see an ROI, then this can definitely help out. Anyhow, that's it from this video. I hope it's been super valuable and I will see you in the next one. Feel free to add any comments in the comment box below and take care.